funding from the Ghana Exim Bank to set up new fruits processing factories for the domestic market. Research has shown, research has revealed that for a fruit processing company to succeed in the local and international market, it is crucial that a strong supply base is continuously guaranteed. I expect students to underline that one. It is crucial, underline that one. It is crucial that a strong supply base is continuously guaranteed. So what it means is that this is a critical success factor. So if you want to be successful in the processing industry, then you should be able to have a supplier who will always reliably provide you with the material that you need. So in exams, if you are asked to talk about critical success factor or critical success factors, this is one of the key critical success factors, a reliable supply of materials. Underline that one. As a result, most well-performing processing companies have strong linkages with fruit producers. So, because supplier of the fruits for the production of the juice is very critical, the processing companies have found the need to build some alliances, linkages with the fruit producers. Why do you do that? You do that so that you can be guaranteed of supply, since it is very key. And when you read the case, you realize that the supply of these raw materials are always in shortage. So if they are always in shortage, then it takes a firm who can always get access to raw materials to be in business. So take note of that aspect of it. Ghana imported 98.5 million US dollar Ghana cedis, which are equivalent to 17.8 million US dollars worth of fruit juice for domestic consumption in 2018. Only 28% of the total domestic demand, worth $5 million is produced in the country. Potential therefore exists to increase fruit juice production for the domestic market. So you see, the consumption of fruit juice in Ghana is on the high. But here's the case that the local producers are not able to produce more. So we end up importing more of such products into the market. So there is a potential, there is a market for the fruit juice, but because of some challenges and difficulties, the local producers are unable to meet the market demand. Hence, they rely on imported goods. So one thing I want you to understand here is that opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. So if in exams you are asked about SWOT analysis and you are analyzing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and you come to opportunities, one thing you can write is that high demand for fruit juice. This is an opportunity, and it is clearly stated here that there is a higher demand, though the local producers are not able to meet that demand. So importers have taken advantage and they import most of the products into the country. The major export destinations of fruit juice from Ghana in 2018 are the European Union market and regional trade, mainly in West Africa. About 45% of the exports valued at US 44.8 million US dollars. Is there any problem? Can I continue? Okay, and that one, I'll go to more options, right? More options, okay. More options. Visual effects. Yeah, IT man, are you sure? More options. IT man. Okay, okay, okay. All right. Let me mute her. Yes. I'm, I've identified those who are making noise. Let me mute them. Yeah. Okay. All right. IT man, I can't see the screen again. Oh, you are screen. Yeah, hello. Yeah, I can't see your screen again. Okay, you let me continue. So we say Ghana imported about 37% of its fruit juice for local consumption from Spain, followed by South Africa at 25%, Belgium 14.8, blah blah blah. So all these are giving us the percentage of the fruit juice that are being imported from these countries. To meet the domestic demand for fruit juice and juice concentration for blending for some local companies, Ghana's imports increased from 60 million Ghana cedis in 2014 to 102 million Ghana cedis in 2017. So this tells you that there is an increase in demand. And if there is an increase in demand, then we need to find out what is causing that. So let's look at what is bringing about the increment in the demand of the product. Awareness creation on healthy eating, establishment of shopping malls in Accra and big cities across Ghana, growing middle class, and booming street vendors producing fruit smoothies for consumption contributed to the high demand. So you see, it is trying to tell you what has contributed to the higher demand of the fruit juice, and we are saying that there is awareness creation on healthy eating. So now people have realized that there's a need for them to eat well. There are more shopping malls in Accra and other cities in the country where you go to so many places and you see these shopping malls around and they sell these products and consumers are exposed to that. Growing middle income, okay, people are also increasing in terms of their income. Okay, their income are also increasing, and as a result of that, they have taste for some of these food foods. It's very common that someone who cannot feed himself for, let's say, rice or banku will even think of fruit juice after eating. So it is very important that we look at it from that trend. When people income increases, then they have taste for other uh, goods. So these are contributing to the higher demand for the fruit juice. Additionally, there has been a steady increase in new hotels with increased demand for fresh fruits. So that is increase in recreational services. Now there is a higher demand for these hotels and the hospitality services in Ghana. And these hotels and recreational centers demand these products and sell to their customers who come there. So all these have contributed to an increase in demand so far as fruit juice is concerned. Now, the second paragraph. It is worth mentioning that these processing companies also have linkages with the major fruit exporters for purchase of second-grade fruit for processing. So you must understand that even these processing companies, they have link with the exporters because these exporters import some of these goods into the market, which is half finished good or let's say work in progress. So they try to add value to it, which they get the final product for their consumers. So they still have link with some of these major fruit exporters. Interviews with farmer groups and key respondents reveal that between 30 to 40% of their citrus and mango is sold to processing companies, while the remainder is sold to the local and regional markets. Fruit like mango, citrus, and pineapple are purchased from producers at a predetermined price negotiated between the processors and the producers before the start of each harvesting season. So what it means is that the pricing in terms of how much they will buy these mangoes and these fruits are normally negotiated before even production starts. So it means that it is very difficult for the farmers to determine prices after production. So one technical thing that you need to understand here is that the farmers will not have the power to determine price even when there is a shortage. And I think that is the reason why the processors decide or agree with them that the price must be determined before production. Because you know, in Ghana, when farmers realize that the commodity is in shortage, it's possible they will come out with outrageous prices, and that will affect the processes. So I think that is a good deal that they have initiated. Now, contractual agreements between the companies and producers or suppliers are the exception rather than the rule. So it means that agreements like formal contracts are mostly not common. It's based on trust and all those kind of stuff. The predetermined prices include transport costs. So these are some of the factors that determine prices. So in exams, when you are asked to examine factors that determine prices of the processes or the food use, one of them is the transport costs. And in most cases, the processors organize the harvesting and transportation of fruit from the farm gate to the processing factories. Processors normally pay their suppliers 2 weeks to 1 month after receiving the fruit. This is usually paid to the farmer associations by check or cash, and they in turn pay their individual members by check, cash, or mobile money. So it means that there is an association of farmers. So even if you are a food juice processor, you don't deal directly with the individual farmers. You deal with their association leaders. So you pay the money to the association leaders, then they will finally pay the farmers in question. So it means that one thing you need to understand is that they have a union. The farmers have a union. And once they have a union, it's possible they may have a higher bargaining power. They can all come together to determine prices. Now let's look at quality control. Apart from the large-scale fruit processing companies that have storage facilities, that is temperature-regulated chambers to store large volumes of fruits, especially during the major season. Storage facilities are non-existent in most factory premises visited. Fruits are usually processed within 48 to 72 hours upon delivery to the factory gates to prevent any wastage and food losses. However, most processors are confronted with storage problems during the major season when fruit is in abundance and becomes more difficult to manage fruit supply and the capacity of the processing factories. To meet international standards, the processors have inspection teams that undertake on-farm inspections and check on fruit quality. The focus is to undertake quality checks and then scheduling a harvesting plan on the various farms with the producers and the associations. Generally, most of these companies are certified by both domestic and international bodies on food safety standards. Local food certification approvals are done by the Food and Drug Authority, Ghana Standards Authority, and Environmental Protection Agency. It was observed that companies producing concentrates for exports, packaging finished products in aseptic bags placed in drums or wooden bins for transportation. For dried fruit, bulk packaging using polythene bags and paper curtains are used. In addition, stand-up pouches were used for both the export and domestic markets. The majority of packaging material is imported as very little is produced in Ghana. Yeah, so here it is trying to raise an issue of quality control systems. So, for instance, if you are talking about value chain and you want to talk about firm infrastructure, then don't forget to mention quality control systems that are put in place by the processors to ensure that they get quality raw materials and also ensure that whatever inputs they get is of higher quality standard. So this is something that we need to look at it. Then here too, another issue you can also identify is weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses is what we term as storage problems. Storage problems. So you could all identify that there is a storage problem, because if you look at the area here, the companies they visited were not having any storage facility, and therefore they found it difficult to store the product in bulk. So what it means is that even if you buy in bulk at a particular season where there is bumper season, it is impossible because they don't have the capacity to store. So if at a particular season there are abundant fruits on the market, you cannot buy in bulk and use it for even a year, which is also a weakness to the organization. Marketing of products, availability, high cost, and appropriateness of packaging material for product shelf life are the main challenges confronting local processors in marketing their product. So these are weaknesses. One is availability, two is high costs, and three is appropriateness of packaging material. So packaging material is not highly available because they mostly import them. Two, even if you get them, it is of higher costs. Three, it is also not mostly appropriate. So this can give us one weaknesses: availability, high cost, and appropriateness of packaging material. This is a weakness that you need to take note of it. Imported fruit juice are usually packaged in Tetra packs and have a shelf life of 1 year. The local products packaged in glass and PET bottles have shelf life of 1 year. The local products packaged in glass and PET bottles have shelf lives of 6 months and 2 weeks respectively. Also, the local products have high volume content but low value packaging. Okay, high volume content but low value packaging. So the packaging value is very low. That is, its quality is very low. It means that it cannot last for a very long time, though it can contain a lot of the drinks. Hence, consumers prefer to buy the 1 liter Tetra Pak fruit juice than the local ones. Exports of processed fruits are mainly to the European Union market. Orange and pineapple concentrates are shipped to international buyers who are mainly wholesalers and distributors that buy concentrate for distribution to juice producers. A few exports have been undertaken on the regional markets, that is Togo, Benin, and Niger, mainly through trade shows. Less than 1% of concentrates produced are sold locally to alcoholic beverages processing companies. Most of the exporting processing companies have a contract with the buyers, and payments are made to the company upon arrival of the consignment in the final destination. Now, there are also buying criteria to meet. So there is an issue here we need to look at. When these processors are buying the raw materials, they consider certain significant factors which are very, very important to them. So there are also buying criteria to meet: quality of products, price, consistency, and timely delivery of supply volumes. So please, I want you to understand that when purchase decision is being made, we call something criteria or factors to consider when these food processors want to buy. And some of the factors they consider is that they look at the quality of the fruits, they look at the price, they look at consistency, how they are able to supply the same quality good always. Then time delivery. Are they able to deliver it timely, or they always delay? So I want you to underline them and consider them as factors the food processors consider when they are buying the fruits. On the domestic market, processors sell their finished products through distributors, supermarkets, retailers, hotels, domestic airlines, and schools. Please underline them. These are what we term as the channel of distribution. Channel of distribution. So underline them. So when there's a need for you to make reference to the channels, then you quickly identify them and write them for the examiner. Generally, most companies interviewed indicated the biggest challenge in marketing and sales of products are consistency of supply and good prices. So these are also some of the challenges that they were facing. So I want you to take note of these challenges as you may be asked in the exams. The fruit industry covers key export commodities and offers great potential for contributing to Ghana's effort at enhancing the non-traditional exports economy and for accelerating the domestic food processing subsector. However, some production difficulties are hindering its export and processing activities, namely seasonality of fruit supply makes it more difficult for the processing companies to produce all year round. And this is also another weakness. Seasonality of fruit supply. And this is a threat, sorry. This is a threat. Okay, seasonality of fruit supply makes it more difficult for the processing companies to produce all year round. So it means that the production of fruit juice by these local producers are dependent on the availability of the raw materials. And these fruits or these raw materials are produced at a specific period of time. So when there are no production, there's no production. So that is very, very important, and we see that to be a threat so far as our local producers are concerned. Whilst in other parts of the world, they are enjoying irrigation services, so farmers over there can produce at any time. Therefore, for them, they can also produce at any time because the raw materials will be highly available. Apart from pineapple, papaya, and bananas that are available throughout the year, the rest of the fruits are seasonal, with fruit availability ranging between 3 to 5 months in a year. Pests and diseases are such as anthracnose, powdery mildew, etc. are another challenge to contend with. So the diseases, pests and diseases are also threats. So existence of pests and diseases affecting fruit supply, that is also a threat. So as I am reading and I'm identifying these issues within the case, I want you to jot them down so that when you get to the exam room, though we will summarize everything for you, but you must jot them down so that when you are reading, you also identify some of these issues. Now, challenges in the food processing industry. Let's look at some of the fantastic challenges that we can identify. Most processing companies are producing below the capacity of the processing equipment. That is underutilization of resources. That is underutilization of what? Resources, which is a clear limitation, or weakness so far as the company is concerned. So I expect you to understand some of these weaknesses so far as the company is concerned. The result is low volumes of finished products at high production costs. So as a result of undercapacity or underutilization of the equipment, what normally results is that there's always low volume of finished products. So in exams, when you mention this one as a weakness, you have to go further to explain to the examiner what this weakness is causing the organization. Because when there is underutilization of equipment, it will result in low volumes of finished products at high production cost. So because the machine is fixed cost, whether you produce more or you produce, the cost is the same. So if you are producing less, then you are not going to enjoy economies of scale. And if you don't enjoy economies of scale, your cost per unit will be very high in terms of high food, labor, packaging, and utility costs, thereby making the local juice products more expensive than the imported ones. So the reason why the locally manufactured fruit juice are expensive is that the producers are not fully utilizing their capacity. Choice of technology is often poor, since obsolete and brand new processing equipment are often used together in the same processing plant. They are not using advanced technology. The technology they are using is out of date, and that is also a weakness. There is an absence of skilled technicians. That is also a weakness. Absence of skilled technicians is also a weakness needed for maintenance and repair of spare parts. This is particularly the case among local SMEs. So if you come to Ghana, because of most of these processing companies are SMEs, and looking at their limited resources and difficulty of accessing loans and support from the government, they are not able to embark or buy these modern technologies. They are not able to employ skillful personnel who will help them in maintaining and repairing of their spare parts. So all this becomes a challenge or a weakness to the local processing companies. This is particularly the case among local SMEs. There is an absence of skilled staff and those not adequately trained for the job in the local processing companies, quality control officers, engineers for maintenance, repairs, accountants, and limited factory workers, resulting in low production efficiency. There are high production losses due to lack of storage facilities. So because of lack of storage facility, there is always production losses. And this is also a limitation or a weakness to the local producers that needs to be considered. Now, at the processes end, there are challenges in meeting consistency and quality of products. So there are also some challenges in meeting quality of the product and frequent equipment breakdowns. These are also some of the challenges that they face, which affects production volumes, risk of contamination, increased production costs, and labor constraints. Value chain actors in the food industry are only partially aware of the production potential. The recent introduction of the 50% reduction in benchmark pot value on selected import items is set to worsen the plight of the local food processing companies. This is a serious threat. You see, the government announced some 50% reduction benchmark, which is going to be an advantage to the importers and at the detriment to the local producers, because it's going to make importing cheaper whilst producing very expensive. So if these importers get such an advantage, which is the 50% reduction in the benchmark, okay, what it means is that they are going to import it at the lower cost and their prices is going to be competitively lower as compared to the local manufacturers. So this is a serious threat, and the examiner will expect you to talk about it when you are asked in the exams. Due to imported products benefiting from lower tariffs, this makes imported products more competitive. This makes imported products more competitive than those produced locally. So like I said, it will make those goods imported very competitive than the one that we produce in Ghana here. This has been a major concern for the local processors, since this will increase the influx of cheaper imported goods into the domestic market. It was observed during the interviews that food processing sector lacks support in sourcing appropriate packaging materials from manufacturers across the world. For instance, government could assist processors to undertake group sourcing of packaging materials at cheaper costs and also ensure timely delivery. Yes, government could have supported them. Okay, so in exams, if you want to make any recommendations or suggestion, or if you want to come up with any policy from the government in supporting, then you can make a recommendation that the government should support them. And how should they support them? The government should support the locally manufacturing or the locally processed fruit juice to access group loans, so that if they want to get maybe quality packaging, the government can say that okay, 10 fruit processing companies can come together, then we provide a, a particular capital or loan which has a lower interest rate to them, so that they can get some of these things. So the government must provide some assistance, it could be financial or technical, to these local processes. The food processing sector continues to rely on imports of packaging material. You see, what makes it more challenging is that they are not able to get a locally manufactured packaging. They always import these packaging, and the packaging that they import is very expensive. And at the end of the day, it adds up to unnecessary costs, which makes their prices so uncompetitive. Okay, it doesn't make their price uncompetitive. So what we need to do here is that the government should provide some support so that they can have a company that can manufacture the packaging that they use in Ghana here. Two, you can also make a suggestion to HPC company that they should think of backwards integration, where they can go into some alliance with a company so they can manufacture their packaging in Ghana here. That is also a way that you can talk about so far as backwards integration or integration is concerned. Delays in supplying the imports on time, the correct specifications for the packaging materials, and high shipment costs invariably affect the cost of the finished product. So even if the imported packaging, normally they don't even get it timely, they don't get it on time. Okay, even the specifications that they give to the suppliers, they don't even go by those specifications. And even the shipment costs before the packaging will reach Ghana, the cost of moving them from that foreign markets to Ghana here is also unbearable. So these are clear challenges and weaknesses that the industry is facing. Another hindering factor is the high utility bills. You know, they are also paying higher utility bills, electricity, water, gas, and fuel, paid for processing activities in their processing units. The resultant effect is a high production cost. So at the end of the day, their cost of production goes up. And if cost of production goes up, it also affects their prices, which makes the foreign imported goods better off than the local ones, which is very, very critical for us to consider. It was also observed that Ghana's proximity to the European Union market should offer cheaper freight charges on exports of processed fruits. When compared to other regions of the world, processing plants are located near production areas, making it easier to source fruits for processing. There is also sufficient raw material available for processing. Managerial competencies are present in the sector and packaging materials. Example, PET bottles and paper cartons are manufactured locally. The domestic market for processed fruits, example, juice, dried fruits, and smoothies, is expanding, and important investments have been made in the development of the fruit sector. That is the pack houses with pre-cooling facilities, refill containers for the transport of fresh and processed fruits for exports. Current government programs and policies are supportive to the processing sector. However, high pest and disease pressure results in low productivity. So here it is trying to say something about political. Okay, if you hear something related to government program, then it's a political issue that we are talking about. So if government is having a policy and program that is supporting the industry, then it is an opportunity. So I want you to underline that aspect and get it that it is an opportunity. High, however, high pest and disease pressure results in low productivity, which is also a threat. So the pest and the disease problems is also affecting productivity. The processing capacity is not fully utilized within the sector, and processors face challenges with seasonality of supply of fresh pineapple, as we earlier said. So there is always challenge in terms of the seasonality of supply, as we don't get it always. Access to finance is also a challenge, which makes it difficult for processors to purchase inputs and invest their facilities. High cost of capital loans for long-term investment is also a challenge. So cost of loans, as we all know, Ghana, if you want to access loans, is very, very expensive, and it's also making it very difficult, and it's also a challenge and a weakness on the part of these uh, companies that process fruit juice in Ghana. Now, let me ask you, if we are saying high cost of capital loans for long-term investment is also a challenge, then what must be the alternative? As accountants, finance people, when loans access is high and you want to finance a project, what would be an alternative? Do you need to float shares? Do you need to expand the ownership base of the organization? Do you need to find other means of getting? So let's look at sources of funds, okay, in the context of accounting and finance. No, I'm not much into that, but I foresee that the examiner may be interested to examine you as to the alternative. If loans access is so expensive, what could be an alternative source of funding or sponsoring projects of such kind? So I want you to bear in mind. There are availability of improved seeds and new varieties and research on good agricultural practices and pest and disease control. The ECOWAS Trade Liberation Scheme, once put in place, will allow for duty-free access to the regional market. So now, within the West Africa, there's going to be duty-free, so free entry, and that will pose opportunity, and it also pose threats, because companies that are in the foreign market that produces fruit juice will also enter Ghana freely. We will also enter other countries freely. But what will make you competitive is your ability to utilize your resources fully, your ability to ensure that you are operating at a higher cost efficient manner, which will help you to also price your product very competitive. Because when the market is experiencing free access, you gain an opportunity only when you have the ability to also produce at a relatively lower price, since it's going to increase competition in the market. So I want you to understand that free access to the regional market is going to intensify competition, and the winner will be the one that can be very or highly efficient. There is an increasing demand in local and sub-regional markets, and growing incomes and middle class in Ghana brings more opportunity. So this is direct. It is trying to tell you that middle income earners are increasing, and that is also an opportunity that we need to tap. Now, however, imported fruit juice with favorable tariffs are cheaper than locally processed goods. Yes, we are saying that the goods we import are cheaper than the ones that we produce here, and we have given so many instances to justify that. Generally, an analysis of the fruit processing sector in Ghana shows low capacity utilization, and we have mentioned that one. These local processors, HPC company, they are always producing under capacity, and if we are producing under capacity, it's a weakness, because you may not be able to enjoy economies of scale. And once you don't enjoy economies of scale, your cost per unit will be very high, and that will make your prices also higher. So consumers, in their right sense, will buy the imported ones, which is relatively cheaper. Now, let's look at some recommendations. Recommendations, page 9. On the basis of the analysis presented, there is a need for HPC to take the necessary steps to address the challenges. So this portion is trying to inform you about what HPC should do. Okay, so the examiner is so open to give you some hint. So you need to know what the examiner is likely to ask you. On the supply and demand of raw material, so it's trying to give some suggestion, some recommendation to HPC. On the supply and demand of raw material, it is imperative HPC work closely with producers. You see, because earlier we said that availability and supply of raw materials is a key factor. So if it's a key factor, then if you want to be successful, it is imperative HPC work closely with producers to ensure ready access to inputs. So they should build strong alliance, strong bond and network with these producers of the raw materials. That is the inputs, the fruits. So they can always get access to these inputs for the processing of the fruit juice. This in terms of the required volume as well as the quality of the fruit. So they should build some kind of agreement as to the quantity that they will need and the quality that they also need, so that these suppliers will always go by that demand. Seasonality of fruit supply can never be completely overcome, but a mix of different varieties with different maturity times can alleviate this to some extent. HPC can also consider diversifying its mix of processed foods. So here we are trying to look at an alternative where they can also look for other source of foods which can always be available all day, all time, all year. So they should not always rely on only these fruits, the pineapple, the banana. They can also do more research to identify other fruits that they can always get all day and all year. The control of pests and disease needs to improve through integrated pest management and advisors that are well trained in the matter. So there should be some integrated effort. Integrated effort means that there should be a collaboration between the processors, that's APC, and the farmers, so that how they will prevent these pests and diseases should not be only the responsibility of the farmers, but rather APC must support. That is what he's trying to say, and that is a suggestion. Okay. APC should work with the suppliers of raw materials to explore opportunities to provide effective control measures to ensure disease-free occurs and to ensure funds for irrigation facilities together with appropriate technical advice on best irrigation practices. Yes, so that is the bond we are talking about. So APC should support these farmers in the form of irrigation facilities and so forth. Even if they think they can go into the production of these fruits themselves, fine, that is backwards integration. They can also go by it. So I am trying to prepare your mind towards that because these suppliers sometimes cannot supply the quantity of the inputs that APC may need, then it will be very important for APC to think of backwards integration, where they go into production of some of these fruits so that they can get a reliable input, reliable supply of input. Don't forget, since it is a key success factor so far as the industry is concerned. Business planning by HPC can be improved, including taking forecasts and potential risks into account. A gross margin analysis can assist the company to operate on the capacity that is required to make a profitable enterprise. Investing in technology that is suitable for the size of the processing company and ensuring that equipment is of high quality will enhance the processing. So they should also think of taking forecasting and potential risks. They should be able to forecast. Managerial competencies is very relevant here, so that they will be able to anticipate what is likely to happen in future. Then necessary actions can be taken against them. Then capacity, they should also think of producing on large scale. Okay, they should be able to produce on large scale so they can enjoy that economies skill. Enhancement in skills. Okay, they should also look at how they can train their staff, how they can provide some training services to these farmers. Though the farmers are doing their own business, but you APC, you also need the input. So you can periodically provide some training assistance to them on how they can preserve these agricultural inputs, how they can ensure that these diseases are minimized and all those kind of stuff. And that is the collaboration we are talking about. At page now, we have what we term as the HPC Board of Directors. So at the Board of Directors section and the management team area, I think it's more corporate governance. So I will leave that one for the finance and the economic, sorry, the accounting and the finance man. So I'm sure Mr. Seth has taken you through the issues relating to that. Now, when you come to page 10, the last paragraph, we have business environment. That is where I have indicated PESTEL framework. So I expect my students to prepare their mind towards PESTEL framework. That is possible the examiner may ask them questions relating to that. So here is trying to look at how these factors have impacted the industry in general. And let's look at it. Ghana continues to enjoy relative peace and stability despite the hazards of the COVID-19 pandemic. So there is stability, there is peace in this country. Therefore, if you are in a business environment where there is peace and there is stability, then you can continue to trade without having any problem. Though the COVID-19 has created some problem, but we are still enjoying our stability. The economy is faced with very few policy barriers to trade and investment. Previously, the economy was strengthened by a relatively sound macroeconomic management and a competitive business environment. So you see that it has mentioned macroeconomic. So if we are talking about the macroeconomic here, then we are looking at issues relating to inflation, exchange rates, and what have you. These are critical issues that is affecting the industry. Don't forget that most of these packaged products are imported. And if they are imported, then it means that we need to exchange our Ghana cedi to the dollar. So we will be needing more of the Ghana cedi in exchange for the dollar. And if you look at Ghana cedi in relation to dollar, you realize that it's very, very problematic and it's bringing a whole lot of challenges, right? Look at our cedi depreciation. All these are the macroeconomic issues. Our cedi depreciation, which is also affecting our trade and is creating a whole lot of inflation and what have you into the economy. So these are some of the issues that you need to look at. So if in exams you are asked to talk about these macroeconomic issues, where you want to talk about exchange rate, you want to talk about interest rate, you want to talk about the cedi depreciation, you want to talk about this, you want to talk about that. Please make sure that when you are talking about exchange rate, you link it to the fact that most of the packages are imported. And if they are imported from these European countries, then you need the dollar to buy. Okay? And that is an issue we need to look at. Recovery programs are underway to revitalize the economy. Yet the business environment for food processing and manufacturing industry looks unclear. So it is trying to tell you that the industry future is unclear. So we don't know because government has recently announced some policies that they want to implement to boost the economy and all those kind of stuff. But it has not yet, and there is no evidence in the case that government has initiated A, B, C, D. So we still see that to be very unclear. Then let's look at the economic performance. The economic growth of Ghana's economy has been very slow due to the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, when an economy is growing slowly, it affects demand. Why? Because it has a link with the standard of living and the purchasing power of consumers. So when the economy is not growing, then it means that people's ability to buy will also be very low. And that is generally what we want to tell you here. And we can also say that the issue of the COVID-19 has also affected a lot of issues, especially restrictions on movement. So if you cannot move, then buying of some of these locally fruit juice becomes difficult because most of them cannot have these online access where you can buy some of these products online. So you have to move to the shops to buy. And here's the case that there are restrictions on movement. Two, most of these goods are also being distributed by the recreational service centers, hotels, and the rest. And if there is restriction on movement, who is going to hotel for you to buy these goods? So you realize that the pandemic also has affected the industry in terms of the demand of these products. So that's for the case in terms of its analysis. Like I said, irrespective of the challenges we have gone through, that is that. I'm thinking of screenshotting what I have done in my case so that at least it can highlight some issues to you. So I'll think of doing that one and forward it to you. I'm also compiling the analysis that I have done so far. What I want to do is that I will do a full summary analysis and I also do page by page analysis so that it will be very convenient and easier for you. Thank you very much for your audience. Thank you. Any question? IT man. Hello. Good. We have ended. I'm sure you were able to record it. Good. All right. So that is the end. And summarize the analysis and push it there. Please, there should be another meeting, probably Wednesday. Wednesday, God willing, we will have another meeting. I sent you some slides. Yeah, I sent you some slides, and I have to take you through that slides, God willing, Wednesday. So make sure you join. I'll send you the link as well. All right. Thank you very much. If there's no question, then we'll call it a day and continue Wednesday, God willing.